record this, and it started. Okay, so, does anyone have a spiritual thought that they want to share?
I have one. I wrote the journal right before this, so I only had the first couple meetings, so I was like, I don't know how to feel about that. So like I said last time, I'm in the perfect study class. And one thing that we talked about was Moses 6 verse 60. And I love this verse. I've always loved this verse. And it says, "For by the water ye keep the commandment, by the Spirit ye are justified, and by the blood ye are sanctified." So you were kind of talking about how, that's obviously baptism, confirmation, and then the atonement of Christ. But through us keeping the commandments, we feel the validation that what we're doing is right from us feeling the Spirit. And if we don't do what's right, we don't feel the Spirit. So it's kind of validating that what we're doing is incorrect. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But through keeping the commandments and having the Spirit as a companion, validating and helping you get through life, and through applying the atonement of Christ, we become sanctified. And it's kind of this like interwoven path of how we get to, having salvation and eternal life in the end. You know what I mean? So through keeping the commandments, we feel the validating power of the Spirit, encouraging us, to keep doing what's right and staying on the path, and then in turn applying that to our lives with applying the blood of Christ and helping us to be sanctified. And I think it's really cool. There's a lot to it, and I always end up repeating myself because it's kind of a process, but really
there is a lot in that scripture. I know I studied it in one of my classes, and it took me a while to wrap my brain around it and try to figure out what I was talking about. So thanks for that further explanation. I listened to a talk this morning that was really good that one of my friends recommended me, and there's just one quote from it that I really like. Is a story about President Nelson and his kids, and the takeaway was I learned more from listening to my children than talking to them, and I just think that's a really great principle. I can't remember. Okay, so just my sister. Okay. So the Brentwood Associates case is the first one on Dick. So it says, put yourself in the shoes of Brentwood Associates management. You must decide whether or not you will exit Zoe's Kitchen now, and if so, what is the best exit option? As a group, vote, what should Brentwood do with Zoe's Kitchen? IPO now, sell to a strategic buyer or a financial buyer, or wait and grow the business until it is more valuable before exiting. I voted number 3, that they should wait and grow the business until it's more valuable for exiting, just because he said that they've had really, really good growth. And at the very beginning, I can read. He said in 2012, we had our 3rd straight year of double-digit same-store sales growth. I've been doing it for 15 years, and you just don't see performance like this, particularly as the company gets bigger. Importantly, the IPO market seemed to be financially gaining momentum. So anyways, it sounds like they're growing really well, and they're going to continue to grow. So I think maybe even just sticking with it for a couple more years would be smart. And then I think at that point, it's a personal decision of like whether or not he still wants to be part of this, because he's a person who kind of likes to be part of the beginning of something and getting something up and running. And so if he's thinking about leaving and just like wanting another opportunity, then he might not want to like go through the whole IPO. He might be happier if he just sells it and gets some money and continues on with another venture. But if he's happy to stick it out for a little longer, I think he could probably get some more money when he sells if he waits a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you guys think?
I also said to wait before he either does the IPO or sells it. I just think there's one line that really caught me on it in the case. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. It says like, oh my gosh, I can never find something. Okay, so he says, if you can wait and still get a good exit outcome in 2 years, why not do so?
Right.
And I'm like, well, if that's your opinion on it, then do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you could do an IPO now and it could go successful, but since it's still new and it's not, you know, making as much, like the revenues aren't as much, the cash flows aren't as much as far as to scale.
Right.
Chewy's and Noodle, especially Noodles, but it's almost there for Chewy's, and Chewy's did really good. So if they can just wait a couple of years and get to the same spot where Chewy is, then the IPO can be even more successful. Like, I just think the longer the business has been open and the more cash flows there are, then the more successful your IPO is, I think. Or maybe not cash flows, but as far in terms of revenue and net income, the greater those are, I think you'll have a greater success of getting a better IPO that will, because one of his criteria was, I want it to reflect good on me, and I want the investors of my, you know, venture capitalist firm to be really proud, and I want them to be like, yes, like, that's my venture capital firm, you know what I mean? So I'm like, if you wait just a little bit longer, then your IPO can be even better. And it's the same thing with selling the company. If they wait just a little bit longer, you can get even more money from the business.
Hello, Andrew. I would choose the third option as well because of what's already been said. The more growth it would be a better offering in the future. The only thing that I was hesitant about was, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it mentioned that Zoe's has a few financial problems at the moment. And if they were to wait, those financial problems would only get worse. So that's my only reservation, but I still think waiting is the best option.
So what are you talking about exactly?
I need to try and find it. I know it said that there was some financial problems.
Yep, you can take a minute and look for it. That's fine. I had another thought. So kind of counters what I said in the first place. So he said that they had their third straight year of double-digit same-store sales growth, and he's like, and you just don't see that, particularly as a company gets bigger. So what I didn't realize in that sentence is that it's almost an argument for him to go ahead and sell while the company is, I guess, like growing so quickly because they are kind of smaller and newer. They're growing really fast, whereas as they get bigger, that growth might slow down. I don't know. Do you think that would cause him to be able to get less money out of the sale if their growth is slowing, or still get more money because they're still bigger than they are today? What do you think?
I think they're able to get more money, but I don't think it would, like, you know how in the beginning sometimes your stock price can change so quickly. I think it could either be a benefit or a downfall as far as like the price from time to time.
Hold on, Hannah, I can't hear you. Okay, go ahead.
I just think it could either be good. It just depends on how much variance they want. Like, if they're growing, the intent would be like, well, our value and our stock price is just growing with that. But if they kind of hit a plateau, then their stock price will hit a plateau, and that can be seen as bad, good, bad, in between. Like, there's a lot of different. I think that is one thing that's kind of hard with those cases. A lot of this is based off of your personal investment opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, okay with it being more steady growth for your stock price, or if you want it to jump around really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I found that spot. Yeah. I remembered it wrong. It's actually that if Brentwood was to sell Zoe's now, it would solve some of Zoe's it'd be a lasting solution to some of Zoe's financial needs, and
Oh,
it would put Brentwood on the map. I just remembered everything wrong.
well, one more
So they have a
reason.
few. Yeah.
Well, to sell. I guess we weren't saying sell immediately, sell soon, but I'm kind of okay with either one on that. Like really, just depending on what the guy wants to do. How do you say his name? He has a weird last name.
Agarwal? Is that his name?
Yeah, something like that.
One thing that I did see that I think, Trevor, you might have been thinking of is on page 7. Right underneath the title, it says, "Should Zoe's go public?" It says that they did an IPO readiness survey in November 2012 for Zoe's, and it revealed that while there were a few areas of weakness that needed to be rectified, the company had many of the right systems in place to pursue an IPO in the coming months. So they did have weaknesses that needed to be rectified, but it didn't say exactly what those were. So that was one of my main points for waiting, and maybe they don't need to wait 2 years. Maybe they only need to wait a couple more months, you know what I mean? Like, I think there are a couple of areas where they need to, make sure they get them really established to ensure better safety as far as their initial IPO goes. Because when it comes to investments, I'm a bit more held back. Like, I want to ensure that what I'm doing is going to be good. Because if they do an IPO and it's not successful, that is so detrimental to a company.
It's definitely the riskiest option.
And it's like almost impossible to get your footing back after that. Like, you don't hear of companies that had an unsuccessful IPO. You know what I mean? Because they fall behind. So it's important for me. It's important that they get all their ducks in a row to ensure they have the least amount of risk possible before going public.
Yeah.
So I'd say wait long enough to get those weaknesses ranked, and then move on from there.
Okay. And I bet Agarwood, he would probably like that idea because it sounds like he likes being there when the company's growing, when they sort of need those problems fixed, like get going, and that's sort of when he wants to go hop on a new project. Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. Also, what you were saying about security, Case made it really clear that selling was the safest options. And I would sell to a strategic over a financial buyer just because the case is that he'd make more money that way.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me as well, that he would make more money with strategic.
Okay, so let's see. I bet we've answered some of the other ones. It says, as a group, allow each individual state his or her position. If you all agree at the outset, take a counter position and explore why you should consider these other options. Andrew, did you want to state your opinion or thoughts?
I don't know what you guys said before.
Well, that's great. That'll help you not be biased.
I thought they should wait a bit and grow and
Okay.
be able to get a better offer. And I thought it would be better because it said that the market was growing.
Sorry, because it said what?
Like the market or something was increasingly like growing over time, and so I thought it would be better to wait longer as they grew, so they could get a better offer in the long run.
Yeah.
I didn't know how long we should wait, but
yeah, and that's a good point. So we all said similar things. Hannah mentioned that maybe they only need to wait 2 months to get just a few more issues ironed out, or maybe a couple years, and like really take advantage of how quickly they're growing. So this says that if we agree at the outset, take a counter position and explore why you should consider these other options. Why does he want to exit now versus waiting? I think just because there's security involved in that. Like they are growing really well right now. He doesn't know how long that's going to last. Getting out at a potential peak, taking his money and running with it. Fine. What do you think? Other reasons for exiting now?
I think as well as they've held this investment for a really long time. They've almost had the investment for 6 years, and it says that they only really like to hold their investment for like 6.5 years. They're getting to their average deadline on how long they like to hold their investment, and the industry average is only 3 to 5 years. So they are
I remember reading that.
way above the industry average on how long people generally hold their investments, which I agree, like, holding this for so long, like, that's a long time for whatever round of investments that they were, you know, a long time for holding this company. So I think it's definitely incentive, like, let's investigate somewhere where growth is bigger, where the growth can give us a higher return. Let's sell this one, move on, and find the next big thing to really capitalize on them.
Yeah, that's a good thought. So kind of just taking wisdom from the standard as far as, not going abnormally wrong. That's a good idea. Any other reasons for exiting now?
One that I'm thinking of, I don't know if it would be a real reason, but if they were to wait, you have no idea what's going to happen in the future. Who knows? Something might happen to the food supply that where Zoe's gets their food from, and they all of a sudden go under because all their food's contaminated. Then Brentwood would be out of an investment as well. I don't know if that's a real reason, but the future is uncertain.
Right, so just for security. That makes sense.
One thing that reminded me of, Trevor, is recently the problem that we've had with the chicken shortage is huge in America, and it even affected my little IBC business last semester because we did fried chicken, and all of a sudden my prices were going for $40 for a 40-pound box to I was paying $83 at the end of the semester for my ingredients for my chicken. Like, the main thing in my business, I was paying double than what I initially had budgeted out to pay.
Oh, wow.
Also, when you think about the romaine lettuce getting E. coli earlier this year, you know what I mean? Literally, who would have thought, all of a sudden, all the romaine from Arizona, you know what I mean, is getting E. coli, and now nobody's eating lettuce. So, I just think that's a point I didn't really think of. Is you never know what happened. All of a sudden, all your lettuce could have E. coli in it. You know what I mean? And who would have thought?
Right. So, have any of you been to Zoe's Kitchen? I have never eaten there.
I have seen one.
Yeah, me too. We have one right close.
But
I've never heard of it.
I've never been there. There's a really good Mediterranean place back where I live, where the Zoe's is. And so I always go to the other Mediterranean place.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I just went to a Mediterranean place in high school once and it made me sick. So I think I've just left a bad taste in my mouth. Anyway,
I've never heard
it's
of
just a random curiosity. You haven't been either, Trevor?
Never heard of it.
Okay. Well, okay, so we already gave quite a bit of reasons for holding. So what can go right under each scenario? What can go wrong? I feel like we covered that pretty well. How much is Zoe worth under each exit option? Discuss with each other how you got your answers as a group. Come up with a consensus of what Zoe's is worth. So this is a part that's generally kind of hard for me. However, I do remember seeing just the multiples that it said in the case about the valuation. So it said the main drawback of a private sale was that valuations tended to be lower in the private markets compared to the public markets. In a sample of restaurant M&A transactions completed in the past 3 years, multiples paid by financial sponsors and strategic investors were 8 times and 13 times. They made more from strategic investors. And then that was also compared to an average current valuation of 21 times trailing EBITDA for publicly traded fast growth restaurant companies. So the 8 times for a financial buyer, 13 times for strategic buyer and 21 times for the IPO. So as far as like comparing the valuation at those in the various options, that's what I know. Knows more than me.
My only question, I don't know if you guys saw this in the case, I couldn't figure out how many shares they were going to put out or how many shares that Chewy's had. So what I did is I took I can share my screen really quickly.
Sure.
If I can figure out how to do it. Okay. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So for the IPO valuation, I went over to, way too far. There, okay. So I used this pricing data. And so we know Chewy's and Noodles were mentioned as being the closest kind of business models to Zoe. And I looked at the revenues, and it looks like Chewy's is way closer in revenues than Noodles. So I took the IPO opening day price and the revenues, and I did a simple comparison. You know how they do like, I mean, it's just simple algebra that I've known since like middle school, basically. So it's like you've got the sales price and the sales price, or the revenue and the revenue, and you have one sales price, but you don't have the other sales price. So like the Chewy's sales over Chewy's price is equal to Zoe's sales over Zoe's price.
Just a ratio.
So Zoe's sales times Chewy's price divided by Chewy's sales got me. So if it were to go similar, Zoe's stock price would probably end up being around $13.30 is what I got for it. But then again, I don't know how many shares that's going to be, so that's going to kind of change the valuation in terms of how much the company is actually worth. And I did the same things with the strategic buyer and the financial buyer. So for those, I went down to the charts. Is this the right chart? Nope. I went down to these charts and I looked at the revenues again. And I found the revenues that I thought were closest. And for this one, it was J. Alexander's. And for financials, it was Rubio's. And then I used their implied enterprise value as the valuation for the company. Mm-hmm. So I took their revenue, same equation, and compared their revenues to their sale price. And obviously this is in thousands, but I think it transfers over to millions. I didn't really understand a lot of the charts that were going on, and if it was in multi-millions or if it really was just in thousands. But I came up with 72 million or 72,000 for Zoe's, for the strategic buyer, and then for the financial buyer, they would get significantly less. They went with this one because when you look at the charts, their revenues, 2 million or 2,000, 1,000, 1,000, you know what I mean? Like they're all really, really high. Whereas for strategic acquirers, they're a bit lower, 300, that one's almost 400, 200, you know what I mean? So since their revenues are so much smaller, then it looked like strategic was the best option as far as if they were going to sell the company. Let me go back here and stop sharing. So it looked to me that like strategic was definitely the best if they were just gonna like, let's just sell it, let's just get it over with, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And based off the multiples that they said, that lines up really well. So that's probably pretty close.
Okay, I was completely wrong then.
I could be wrong.
I know you are more right than I am.
I just looked at YouTube video, like how to value a company, and then this
Hey, way to go.
Irish guy popped up and he showed me that equation. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, well, that was really smart. It made sense. So, like they said, with the multiples being 8 times and 13 times, I was gonna do like my so 8 over 13 is like 0.61, and then what were your values? Like 37,000 for financial.
For the IPO, $13.30. For the strategic buyer, $72,127, and for financial buyer, $49,467.
Okay, so like the multiples were 8 times for the financial and 13 times for the strategic, which makes you about like 0.61ish when you divide it out. And if I divide out the valuations that you got, so like the 49,000 over the 72, you get 0.68, which is really close. That makes sense, comparing those. So I think you're close to what they probably are.
Yeah, I didn't know what numbers to use, so I just found ones in the whole thing that I thought, hey, this might work, and I can see it was way off, so I'm pretty sure you have what's right.
Okay. So would anyone sell to a financial buyer instead of an IPO? I'm going to say no. Hannah's math says no. The case says no. It doesn't seem like, especially not if you're selling right now. Definitely not. People, the case that I looked at, like the other discussion, they said that you could maybe make more money from a financial buyer if you waited. But I didn't totally understand why. But as far as selling right now, you're definitely going to get more money from a strategic.
In the case, it talks about why. Let me. I don't know if I have it marked actually, but I remember it talking about the advantages. Selling to a financial buyer, but yeah, I'm not finding it.
That's okay.
Never mind then. Maybe I'm crazy. But I thought it said like, well, the financial buyer usually goes for this kind of business, and the strategic buyer usually goes for this kind of business. But I'm not seeing it anywhere, so I think I'm just crazy.
That's okay.
But I think the only reason why they would go for a financial buyer over an IPO is because it's fast, it's cheaper, they'll get more money out of it because it's cheaper and it's faster, you know what I mean? And it'll allow them to move on to their next investment in a more timely manner. And, you know, the first to market is always the best. So if you're the first one to find this business and make the investment, and then it's always better to be the first for anything really. But especially in making investments, it's always best to be the first. So getting it over with quickly so that you can move on, getting your money's worth. It would be more appealing as far as that goes. Although with the IPO, you look more successful. You get the more credibility for being able to take the company public. It's just what you value more as far as what you want to get out of it is going to determine what you do.
Okay, so I'm pulling up the other case since I think we're about ready to move there.
Also, I found out, so apparently as BYUI students, we have access to Zoom without this time restriction. We just have to sign in with our BYUI account, I think.
I figured there was something like that. I
Yeah.
didn't want to take the effort to look into it.
Same here.
But thank you for doing that.
I found out through another group, so.
Oh, nice. Oops. Okay, give me just a minute. I need to pull the proper pages. Oh,
Since we're moving on,
yeah?
okay, do we want to start a new meeting?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Okay, I'll upload this one, okay?
Cool.
All right, toodles.